And that's what's going to happen because there's a buildup.
Right.
And just like I gave the example last week in regards to how, precept upon precept, if I was to paint a picture, it's for a bricklayer. Whenever he takes a brick, he slaps that cement on top of that brick. And then he takes another brick and he places it on top of that brick. But not only is he placing it on that brick, but he's pressing it down. And he's taking that spatula to come across to clean it off.
And he's lining it up with the
other ones. Right. So if at the end of the day the explosion is going to come, I'm telling you, you're going to get the true feelings of how he really felt. It's like that liquid courage that people have whenever they drink. They seem to be more vocal then.
They are.
But if it's building up and there's an explosion and something comes out, that's literally how they feel and how they've been feeling and didn't know how to deal with it.
So now what you're doing, you're lashing out and bringing everything that was brought up in you as a child and what you've been through with your mother or your father. Now you take it out upon the person that you love.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. It comes from insecurity. That's what it is. And insecurities is not always a negative thing.
A bad thing, right?
We talk about insecurities, certain things that you didn't want to accept or you didn't want to say at the time because of your, the time that you're growing up, who you need to say it to. Sometimes when you're saying it, you're trying to say it in a manner where you can, but in the immaturity, you don't know how to express yourself verbally. Now you go out and action.
And guess what? We've always been taught as children to, speak when you're spoken to.
Right.
So at an early age, I hate to say it, but at an early age, we are taught that we don't have a voice. But that's damage. We need to teach them at a young age. You have a voice, but let's learn how to budget what we say and how we say it.
Yeah, respect. Yeah.
So, like I said,
Okay,
I don't
turn
know
your
about,
mic towards you.
I'm sorry. Like I said before, the thing that I've started learning, even though it may be a hoax, the letter may not be real, or it may not be to the fact that it was written in a time in the 1500s, but the Willie Lynch letter, How to Make a Slave, has all that what we're talking about right now. That's all that is 1 and 3 or 4 letters. It has all of this what we're talking about. Yeah. So those are the things that we need to start talking about and addressing, because now when you tell a young man to hush, when you're showing yourself, basically when you're in a discussion where you're trying to get facts and you're trying to get truth, but while you're upset and you're aggravated and you're frustrated, but then you want the son to say something, but when you tell the son to say something, when he starts to say something, you tell him to shut up. So as soon as you tell a man to shut up or tell a young boy to shut up, all what you're doing right then and there, you're suppressing everything of who he is. So when you suppress a man that way and you growing up that way, then all of a sudden you lashing out like, man, this man got anger. He's not got any anger issues, but what it is that every time he has to express himself or express what he says verbally, he's always been told to shut up.
And now that he's able to speak,
right,
he's passionate,
right,
and it's mistaken as being aggressive or angry.
And when you tell him to shut up at the age where he is now, then all of a sudden he jabs.
Oh my,
he puts you in the headlock.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Then we call it domestic violence, but it all triggered from the relationship that he had with his mother. Vice versa, it's the same thing with the daughter. But the daughter's always told to be shut up and sit down and be quiet. And all of a sudden, now you see why a young woman is always flinching when you come to her and trying to give her a hug. She's flinching. So those are the things that we got to look at these things. Man. This letter that we, even though we know if we believe it, if it's a hoax or not, but this letter has some truth and some facts to it.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I mean, and this is the whole thing. I think, but now you get into generational differences. Yeah. Oh yeah, now you get into. And what happens is because man, the millennials and younger, man, they say about what they want to say. It's a whole different level. Because the millennials and the children who are coming up now, man, we're in their teens and 20s.
Right.
They grew up in. I'm gonna say what I want to say, because normally what happens is you start having children earlier. So what happens is then you get a generation where parents are trying to be friends with their children, And that's even a worse effect. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, hey, if you ain't saying what I want to say, they're either like, I don't care what you say, you can't really tell me what to do, and hold it. And this is it. And then we come up with children there who got time out. They didn't get whatever. Yeah, time out does something to you. Like, you mean there's no there? I mean, not that you want to, go around beating children and
But there's no
abusing.
repercussion.
Right. You go sit in your corner. Well, if you sit in the child in their corner and they still got their phone, they still got something else. It's like, oh, this is just thank you. Yeah. So yeah, and even with the and one thing that the thing about even where with Willie Lynch and that type of thinking comes out is that generationally speaking, and I hate it for I think sometimes women y'all get the lowest prompt to that because you're gonna try to get power from somewhere. And so if I can't get power from somebody's over me, I'm going to the next level. So I'm gonna try to usurp power on the person that's under me. And so women normally became the objects. I mean, I was just listening to, they played it on the radio that, women were sold according to either you gonna work in a house or you go for breeding. So, it was for you were objects. And really, and so when they look at women as objects now, I mean, it really doesn't even make any difference. I think sometimes when women become more than that, like a man might like you because you're pretty or whatever, but when you start having a brain, that becomes a problem.
Because we're supposed to be airheads, right?
Right. Just look good. Just put on your Mac makeup, and, airbrush yourself, but and just say yes. Just sit there and look pretty. But when you start thinking like, well, I don't agree with that. That's like, what do you mean you don't agree with it? And then the church teaches you this. The church teaches women this. I mean, y'all get the short end. You got to submit whether you want to or not. You just got to submit.
And then go back and read that whole script.
I know. Of course, we know that you submit yourself one to another. But most women, I just heard a woman recently say that, like, I can't stand to see a woman in charge. Now, a woman told me this. She said she was talking about,
Wow.
she was talking about leadership in the church, and I was.
Well, that okay. Hold on. You need to read Judges chapter 4 and chapter 5. That's all I can say with that passage. I don't want you to even go there.
Yeah.
We go, Judges chapter 4 and chapter 5. If y'all read that scripture right there, you see, and that's a lot of times where we don't even talk about it in the church. We don't even talk about Deborah being the leader.
Oh, she was a judge, bro.
At the same time.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she did both. I mean, I think that's the whole thing.
Man, I didn't mean to cut you off, Pastor.
Yeah, but no,
but that's where we got to get back to the Bible building, and not only that, but understand who we were as the people. If we were looking at each other as if David was our kinsman, and he's a king, everybody that's with him are all also royal as well.
We're all royal.
Fail to realize.
Yeah, we all royal.
We're thinking
kings
that
and priests, bro.
kings and priests. So we're thinking that David was just a king, but no, David was my cousin. He was my kinsman.
Yeah.
So if he's royal, then you and I, as the whole family, or the children of Israel or Jerusalem, was royal too. So we cannot get that. So when we get at this like Pastor Miles was talking about, this generational oppression mindset, we got to look at it that everything that we read in the scripture, as far as them being kings, start having kings and queens with Jerusalem, they were all, the whole family was royal. So that's the issue that we're having now, because we still have some spots and wrinkles in our communities and in the way we think, and even though we're calling ourselves children of God, we still have some spots and wrinkles that we need to deal with. That's the most important thing that we got to understand. That's why God said to help me. It helps them to work together. As soon as we come apart, as soon as we're not working together, we're always going to have this division, and that's what we're talking about right now.
So how do we help, with the matter at hand about, in so many words, being disregarded when we have determined that now we've come to this
It's impasse. Yeah, that's.
How do we recognize we have a problem? And when it's recognized, don't ignore it. I'm putting it out. When it's recognized, I encourage you to address it.
You gotta address
because ignoring it is just going to make the matter bigger.
Right.
And, Hope always says, don't try to eat the whole cow in one bite.
No, you
So
can't do it. Yeah,
if you catch it when it's small, if you catch it at stage 1, you got a better way of treatment. You have better treatment. But if you catch it at stage 4, now it's almost beyond repair.
It's metastasized, and when something metastasizes, man, it's you treat it, then you're not curing it.
There you go.
Yeah. When you get to a situation where you're not looking for active, where you're not looking for an active cure, you're just treatment. That's where, when doctors say, like, we can't do nothing else for you, that's when they give you any kind of medicine. They like, man, give as much morphine. Like yeah, it's palliative. So a lot of relationships have gone palliative. That means that they're just trying to, some relationships, they're just trying to, let's just make it work. And then sometimes it becomes business arrangement. That's when people get to separate rooms, because then it's too hard to, it becomes financial. It's like, look, we can't leave each other, because we both making money. We living on a 2-income family. We got all this going on. So what happens is you learn how to live together, and it's palliative care. Like, we're not gonna kill each other, but we ain't love is gone. Yeah. So that's the whole thing. And and the whole thing that happens with that is you just hope that nothing, when someone else comes, when a third party comes in that ignites that, then that's when the whole thing goes awry, because then you start feeling that way towards someone else. But yeah, when it becomes palliative, when it becomes hospice, when the relationship goes to the hospice state, yeah, you just wait for it to die. And normally it's one person, like, I'm not gonna be the first to leave. But sometimes it goes through 20 years of you just there because nobody's like, I'm not leaving. So it's like, we're gonna just have to learn how to do it.
Situation shifts. Talk about that also. Those situations.
Yeah.
See, like the type of relationship that we're talking about now, I call it ADHD. That's when your focus is off your partner. It's on everything else but your partner. So now that you are in this ADHD relationship, now you got to, try to come up with something to bring that focus back. Because like little kids and stuff with ADHD, they have to go through multiple different types of treatment, because the treatment don't work for everybody, right? And then they go to your DNA, like we talked about. They go through your DNA now to actually give you the treatment you need to even treat ADHD.
Yeah.
So that's how it is with relationships.
We're looking at our behaviors, or what we're talking about ADHD, is always something that we've been missing as a child. It's undeveloped. So when we're looking at that type of understanding, everything looking at Adam and Eve, let's use that analogy. There was something that was undeveloped in the fact of them not knowing what sin was. It was undeveloped. Everything was righteous. So when she looked at it, said that we should surely die, Adam and Eve was looking at it like that. Okay, I don't know what death is, but it made it seem like that's what it was. But when we're looking at it mentally, that's what it was. It was undeveloped. They didn't know nothing about it. But at the end of the day, when they did take upon it, they understood it. When we look at I believe the 3rd chapter, he said, now Adam and Eve has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. So I can't have them to do that. So now I got to kick them out of the garden, so they won't continue to live this way if they take up the tree of the tree of life. So when we see in that was undeveloped. So some certain things that we got going on in our lives and our relationship are always undeveloped. And then when it comes down to that, come on, you see what I'm saying? So when we're looking at generation to generation of things that's undeveloped, now we're looking at what's going on right now. A lot of broken homes. The only time I'm happy is when I'm buying you a Cadillac, or the only time I'm happy when you put on your stilettos. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So certain things that we got to start looking at and start opening our eyes to.
That's true.
And that's what Pastor, and that's why I was asking about Pastor Lyle, as far as the thrillers go. When we understand what happened, look at Adam and Eve, man. The thrill was gone.
Yeah. But it became laborsome. It introduced labor, it introduced pain, it introduced, and that's the one thing I think relationships, I think people don't prepare for. When you put 2 humans together that from totally different backgrounds, you gotta be prepared for, what's gonna happen when the pain comes. What's gonna happen when we're not in agreement. I mean, because we don't, most of the time you don't go into marriage. We say it, but we really not expecting that. And it's like what Abe says, I don't know what I'm gonna do because when I'm dating you, I can always leave you. I'm not committed to you in a dating relationship. I can just, I mean, it can seem to, I mean, we know we committed, but really on paper, at any time in a dating relationship, you can say, I'm done. But, you have to think about when you get into marriage and it's like, wait a minute, I can't just leave you now, and I'm hurt and I'm just like, wait a minute, what you mean that I can't leave, or is that the process is not easy. It's like, wait a minute, so how are we going to have to, we got to really work this out. And you might not be used to, you might be, and I was that type of person, like, if I don't like it, you just leave, So, and that's the only child in me. I think that was, and like, some insecure, but some of it I was just poor. I like having my way. So if I can have my way, it didn't seem right. So it's like, if I can't have my way with you, I just want to leave. I don't want to deal with you. You know what I'm saying? So, so I had to learn, like, you know what? When you get two people together, you got to, not even being negative, you don't have disagreements. You can't have two people living together forever. And you see everything eye to eye.
Nah,
Yeah.
that ain't gonna
Right.
happen.
Yeah. Even God said, he says, listen, come, let's reason together. He said, listen, I'm God and I know everything, but listen, I'm still reasonable.
And if there's
Yeah.
no disagreement, then what is reason?
Yeah.
So he already knew, like Pastor said, he knew.
Yeah. He's like, come on, y'all. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the one thing Adam and Eve, neither one of them did. They never reasoned with God. They went to the blame element. They didn't sit there and say, well, God, let's talk about this. I think God was reasonable. It's like, okay, let's have a conversation about what just happened. I think that could have been, I think either Adam, I think both of them, we try to place blame, but the gear in them, they had always talked to God. Why you stop talking to him? It's like, hey, God, you know what? Yeah, man, I mean, we missed it 100. We both missed it. But, and still today, I think, even before the Lynch letter, it came down to this, the blame. I'm blaming somebody. If it ain't right, it ain't me. It's somebody. It's got to be somebody else because I know it's not me. Yeah, yeah.
So that's where we get that down. So regardless of how we look at the Willie Lynch letter,
blame.
it's the slave or whatever it was. You're looking at what the scripture was talking about. All this was because of disobedience.
Disobedience.
So it was.
Yeah,
yeah. So now my subjection of me being a man, and not only being a man, but if I subject myself to being a husband, now I got to make a submissive decision. Am I going to do it the right way or I'm going to do it the wrong way?
Yeah. Especially when you know right, bro.
Yeah, submission is a choice.
Right.
There you go.
I don't see submission as something that you have to do. No, submission is a choice. So when I look at submitting, am I going to submit myself in a manner where I'm always going to cause conflict and chaos and disagreements? Or am I going to sit myself to try my best to be honorable, to be respectable, to be righteous, to be holy, and not only that, but be able to have that asking me as well. What I mean by asking me as well, if somebody wants me to do the same thing that I'm willing to give, I'm willing to do that. But even if they don't do it, even if they still ask me, will I still be willing to do it?
That's covenant, bro.
It's part of.
Bro, that what Abe just explained to you is covenant. Covenant says this: I'm gonna do right by you. I don't care what you do to me. It's like, I don't care if you spit in my face, I still got covenant with you. I don't care if I walk in the room, I see you with another person. The covenant says, this is blood. I'm just saying, if Jesus didn't have covenant with us, if God didn't have covenant with us, we would be done. We would be done. God has so much covenant with us that He sent Jesus with His blood. So when He put His blood in us, He was like, listen, I can't cut this with you. Yeah. Because, and Christians get into that, and I know it goes down a whole different rabbit patch, but, people like, well, losing your salvation. You can't lose that, because this is it. I can't lose my mom is in the grave and she's still my mom.
That's right. That's good.
You know what I'm saying? I can call other people my mama, but I'm in covenant with my mom in the grave. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. To the end of your life. When a mama bring you to this earth, when you get to this earth, I don't care what, you can't disown your mama. You can't disown. And look, God says this: I can't disown you. If you accept me by my son, I literally do not have the right. I do not have the ability to disconnect from the blood in you. So what happened? People are like, well, what about when we sin? Well, the consequences of sin is death. Not that God is going to stop loving you. He didn't say I'm gonna stop loving you. He said that if you keep doing wrong, you're gonna die eventually. You might die earlier, but I'm not gonna be the one to kill you. But he said, I'm gonna love you until I'm loving you forever. That's what salvation is. Yeah. So what happens is, but marriage becomes optional. But when you take a marriage covenant, when we say death to death does part, that's one of the biggest vows that we break, including myself. Because we really say when we standing there in all our white and black and pretty colors, and the person asks you a covenant statement, to death do you part. That means when you leave, you're supposed to be dead. Somebody gets the right to just, okay, I'm leaving. So long as you get out of this, is death. And Moses, he told Moses, he's like, Moses, I ain't really about this divorce stuff, but they're gonna do what they want. So I mean, write them an agreement, but really, I don't see that covenant is broken. Right. Yeah, yeah. You don't break hold it. Covenant is unbreakable. You can't break covenant. Yeah. Our marriage is not an agreement. We've made marriage an agreement. It's a marriage agreement where, but it is not a marriage covenant. If we really looked at it as covenant, what we really supposed to do is we supposed to slit our hands. Forget the ring. No, you slit your hand and we bleed in this thing. It's like, and the only way that and you know what they do? They take that blood and they write signatures with the blood and say, this is our blood is mingled. I can take that ring off, but this is blood, man. Right. And then this is it. And then you think about, sex is supposed to be a covenant act. Look what we made sex into. The sex is just pleasure. Right. You know what? Food is not supposed to be enjoyable. It's supposed to be sustainable. Right. We don't supposed to eat to feel good. We're supposed to eat. Right. 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 Come on. And we live to eat. Look how we live to eat. Right. We're supposed to be eating vegetables. When God created this earth, He created us to eat greens and vegetables. And He didn't create us to eat cows and chickens. I mean, I eat just as much cow and chicken as everybody else. But it becomes enjoyable. It's like, so we may eat, like Abe said, God is like, I want you to eat enough so that your bodies are healthy. But then we want to eat, and just like we want to have sex and lustful, so I'm gratified. I don't care what the other person feels like. It's like it's gratification. So covenant is about this. I'm not satisfied if the other person's not satisfied. My whole life is about satisfying the other person.
Because it was an assignment. It was actually created to be an assignment because He said multiply.
Yeah, multiply.
That's what sex.
Replicate this.
It's supposed to be. It's an assignment.
Right. Yeah, and the act became. Go ahead. We turned sex into lust. It became, yeah. It became lust. And this is it. And in a marriage, and you have to be careful that you don't. I look great. Yeah, that's it. And so when marriage, when the lust wears off, and I think that's what happens, after the honeymoon, 6 months into it, when the lust wears off, and it's like, wait a minute, I don't really know if I like you. I mean, I the sex is just okay now because I'm used to that. So now I got to, but do I really like you as a person? I don't know. I mean, I don't. Yeah, that's the whole thing. People like
they say.
Y'all too. I love my co-host.
Once a man releases, everything you release, the mind and all that releases.
Yeah.
So once that happens, it's like sometimes when that happens, you're looking at the person like, okay, that's it. Like that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Right. Right.
It's open. It's open.
Right.
Yeah. No more calling. No more putting forth the effort. No more chasing. You nothing. Like you gave me what I was looking for. I got it. It's it.
I told it. I was at Lewisburg College. I did a few years back, and we was up at the college, and I was talking to basketball players were there, and I said, "Listen, brothers, you have to understand this, because girls are gonna like y'all, but this is it. This is it. When girls are sleeping with y'all, they think the next morning y'all are gonna be 100. Yeah. But when they come trying to talk to y'all on the block, y'all like, what you coming for talking to me for? Right. And then the brother was like, man, you right, because it's like, man, people they be trying to come talk to us, and we like, why you trying to say like, why move away? It's like, right, because the whole thing is she's made a commit. That act is a commitment, and and this will throw brothers off when the women reverse their role. When a woman say, okay, I'm done with you, just go. It's like, what you mean you gonna let me go? You can't, I'm just done. It's like, yeah. No, it's
So is that why in certain situations it seems like the woman she gives of herself, the man makes sure she does that, but he don't give of himself. And what I'm saying is he makes sure she gets hers, but he kind of hold back.
Well, I mean, and I think what happens is the holding back is the emotional commitment. I mean, I think because part of intimacy is just technique. It's I mean, some people become good at technique. They know what to do or whatever, so they become great at the technique. But so that there's no
emotion.
Right. A good football player, if you teach them technique, they can play football in their sleep. It's just they like I look at Deion Sanders, one of the greatest that ever does it. When you hear him talk, he's not being arrogant. He really learned his trade well enough so nobody could beat him. He was just that good. He was technique wise. Right. So, and that's what we call players. Players, they become good with technique, but they know how to keep them. They never attach emotionally. So they just go from one person to the next, and they hope what they
need to submit that into the Ebonics encyclopedia.
What's that?
The dictionary. When you just broke down what player is.
Yeah. It's just they just technique. They love technique. They like winning. Players like winning. It's not about the relationship. Right. A player, they have a 15-game season, and so they just trying to run through and what gets them there, what's a challenge to them is when their technique doesn't work. Because then they go back to the drawing board. They go just like a coach, like they lose the game. Like, wait a minute, hold it. And when a woman tell them that technique ain't working, they hold it. That's a draw for him. That's a draw for a player. Like, oh my goodness, like, wait a minute, the technique is not working. So it's like, wait a minute, yeah.
It worked for everybody else.
Right. Yeah.
So also to add to that question, now we got to go back again. There's a lot of inspiration in the scriptures. So the only reason why Adam said what he said to Eve is that he gave a part. He had to give a piece of himself.
He had to get right. Exactly. That's the investment, bro.
So women, if you listen, I'm giving the game away.
Yeah.
Women, if you listen, if you understand, if he has not given anything of him, don't expect.
Yeah.
Don't be nothing.
Right. Don't be nothing.
Right.
Now he has to give something of him.
Right.
The majority of the time, when a man gives something of him, he's always going to give him what? He's going to give him his mind to him first. That's it. If a man never give you his mind, you don't expect nothing else but that.
And I mean, women, you can correct them because it really, in most situations, I mean, there are always exceptions, but for you to trust a man enough to really have intimacy with him, there has to be just at least some part of you that you're willing to say, I'm willing to give myself to you. So I don't know. I think that's the whole thing. A man doesn't have to do that. A man is he's giving, but just by nature of the act, you're the receivers. Right. So to really and you're vulnerable. Right. You're the ones who are literally receiving all this, and you have to make yourself vulnerable. But the man is not vulnerable. So just to put yourself in a situation where you make yourself vulnerable to somebody, that's already a commitment. So. But bros, man, the brothers, they that's how they with somebody, they come home. A player can do this. He's good at technique. He could be married and come home and still be like, though his wife never know because he can still perform. He's a performer. Yeah, but I think Abe said the great thing though. If a man is not giving you his heart, if he's not giving you vulnerability, if he's not being vulnerable, I mean, just watch that, man. He You know, he know how to give you flowers. He know how to take you. If he got money, if a brother is rich, he can take you to the restaurants or whatever. But that ain't giving himself. That ain't right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, just cause the brother take you out to dinner to the nicest restaurant. Oh, and this is a good brother. He'll do that. A brother talked about this. There's some brothers who are called snipers. You know what a sniper does?
Teachers, pastor. Teacher.
A sniper would do this. You know this, Frederica. A sniper can go infiltrate. Now, this person is supposed he got a snipe might be 2 months away, but he would go up in a tree or somewhere and live in that tree for 2 months and study this person to take one shot. In a relationship or a player would take you to dinner for 6 or 7 months for the one time. Because he's like, you know, and he'll play that game like, no, I don't want to touch you. I don't want to do nothing to you. So he's giving the image that he's giving himself to you, but he's really not. He just know the game. He got a 6 month game. His gameplay, he's a 6 month sniper. He's like once every 6 months, yeah.
For the note takers out there.
Right. A sniper will he's good at his game. He's like, listen, it's gonna take me 6 months, I'll be sleeping with this woman. But after the 6 months, we're gonna be done. Because once I've invested the 6 months, I'm on to the next person. And that's why people bust the windows out his car. Because in 6 months, you think this dude can't just do this for 6 months and walk away. He was never committed.
No. Now you have women out there.
Yeah, it works.
That's to a point where let me go ahead and get him with what he wants.
Yeah.
And because they come in numb.
Yeah.
So by the time he meet her, she's already numb to the fact. So you know what? Let me just go ahead and get him what he wants. So he go ahead and get on out my face. That's where some women are now.
It's on both sides. Yeah.
Have y'all seen that movie, Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
I love that movie.
Yeah,
that's my favorite movie.
That sometimes that's exactly what it looks like.
I love that movie,
relationship really
I just watched
two players playing.
Right, and they both going through the motions.
They both got guns in the same place.
Yep.
The same room.
Yep. When it came out, man, they was hit buttons every gun.
They tearing the house down. You hear me?
Yeah, watch them snipers, man. Ladies, I'm gonna tell you, watch snipers. Don't.
I know that we've kind of gotten off of what we started, which we normally do.
We always do that, don't we?
So the vulnerability part that you were talking about a moment ago about a man, if he's not vulnerable.
If he's not vulnerable. Because I was not.
What does that look like in a man? What does being vulnerable look like? Because from a woman's standpoint, it might not be what we're thinking.
What does God look like to you? I'll put the question back on you. What does God look like to you?
Hey, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Now really think about the question that. Now I'm not saying that you're wrong or right, but for me to tell you who I am, I shouldn't have to tell you. Just like Adam, he didn't have to say. He already knew who she was. And then Eve already knew.
It's sort of kind of giving them the answers to the test.
That's all it is. That's what God always gives us every time. So when I realize who I am, if I'm in the image of the Creator Himself, then I know for myself what I am and who I am and what I want and what I need. So God said, I'm going to give you a help me. So if He's going to give me a help me, and He knows, and the Creator knows what I need, then all of a sudden when I see that thing, or not thing, y'all women, y'all not things. When I see this woman, I'm going to know exactly who she is. So it should be the same point. When a woman sees a man, she's going to already know who he is.
And I think too, the thing that comes is that there has to be somewhat of a time investment. Because you just need observation. You know, when I always talk to me, I like Freddie because she's in the military. Listen, when you take your oath to go into the military, they don't give you an M16. You know, they don't say, look, do you swear and solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States with all that's in you, so help you God? Yes, sir. Well, here's your M16, here's your grenades, go for it. You got to go through basic training. You got to go through, how much basic training? I think 8 weeks. Is it just 8 weeks?
8 weeks of basic training, and whatever your specialty is will determine how long you're in school.
That's it.
Now, if the military knows this, and this is what I like about the military, they can take a person who's not qualified in anything and see you through training.
And maybe
Right.
the best
And right, you know, when they go back home, they're like, wait a minute, who are you?
Yeah.
So what happens is, I think there's a training element in relationships. It's like, listen, okay, we don't get to know each other. Number one, we got to keep intimacy off the table. Stop. We said that's X. We got to take that off the table, because once you cross that line, we already crossed the line. So in basic training, this is it. They tell you what to wear, what to whatever. So what it is, you sound, so the whole thing is, okay, we get ready to date. Let's set the ground rules. I mean, you make it that way. Like, listen, these are the things that we know that are off the table, so we don't confuse lust. We don't confuse
Lust with love.
Right. So let's, first of all, we just got to know. We got to get to know each other. And you know, I'm gonna answer, since you know, let's ask the hard questions. You know, hey, listen, you know, I don't really like, you know, if you're a man, just say, listen, I don't really like, every time I go out, I don't like paying for everything. Oh, say you got to be 100% open. You know, right.
I was gonna say too, Pastor, that what they don't talk about is when we first come in, we take that. Oh, once we get there to our destination, they strip us.
Yeah,
We don't
ooh,
talk about
that's
it.
good.
Come on now. From us.
Good God, I love
And
that. Yeah,
then they start fitting us into their gear.
Wait.
That'll preach
So
here.
you trying to tell me I got to get rid of all my past relationships?
There you go.
Everything else like that? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Stripped.
That's good,
Okay,
Gina.
that's good, because
That's
guess
Gina.
what?
I ain't trying to hear
I was
that.
over here just a moment ago. I was like, nah, I ain't even get ready to go here.
Yeah.
But since you brought it up,
Uh-oh, watch out there.
Here we go.
Since you brought it up,
Uh-huh.
help me. How do you avoid spillage when you're going into a new relationship? I need some help, y'all.
Donations.
You better speak.
Now, okay, brothers and sisters,
That's
y'all, I was there at the women's empowerment yesterday. Y'all missed a treat. Really, the apostle talked about that, about the heavy bags.
Woo!
So there are certain things that women are doing, and also men are doing. And sometimes we're taking on a lot of heavy baggage that we don't even want to let it go.
She said, don't drop the bag.
Don't drop the bag.
Don't drop the bag.
But she said you can drop what's in it, but don't drop the bag.
Don't drop the bag.
Oh, that's good. That's
Do you
good.
hear what I'm saying?
Ooh,
So
that was so good.
when you're talking about that, I think, like I said, it gets back to the question: what is God? Who is God to you? So when you look at God, God was coming. Now, see, we fail to realize, we just thinking that God came down to see what Adam and Eve was doing after they, disobeyed God. But you got to understand, the Creator was coming to them every evening, every cool of the day. He was coming down there talking with them, speaking with them, keeping that relationship. And all of a sudden, he realized that, hey, I haven't talked to them today. I haven't said anything to them today.
Hold it. Wait
I
a
got to
minute.
go down and get them.
Hold it. This is it. Hold it. You have to understand it. Understand this. They all had the same mind.
Ooh, there you go.
Hold it. This is it. Wait a minute. Adam and Eve were so close. They were so close in communication to God that they could talk to God without speaking. They were spirit. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is, the reason you change to the cool of the day, they started to realize time. Why there was no day and night in them. So what happens is, when they were so in sync, they didn't even they were out of sync. They thought they were naked. They were out of sync. They lost his presence. They thought they were naked. It wasn't that they were naked. They were out of sync. So what happens is, if we're in one with some person, it's those people who said, those relationships, those old school relationships, when one of them died, they say, never get married no more, because I never get that again. They know better. They like, I know that I'm not getting married again, because that I was so in sync with that person that I know it wasn't a doubt about that. So, and this is it. And if I'm coming out of a broken relationship, it's what Gina says. Then it's like I got to go through basic training, because then I'm still trying to bring that other training. Because I guess this is it. So if I go in classified infantry, that's what I'm. Then they say, well, we need to change your MOS. We get ready to make you medicine.
Bravo.
Yeah.
91.
Yeah.
91 Alpha.
So we get ready to change your MOS. We no longer infantry. Now we get ready to make you reconnaissance. It's like, wait a minute. So you get ready to take my gun away. So how am I gonna do this? Then what I had to go through, I had to do what you said. I can't hold a gun you got to take my gun. Because if you give me my gun, I'm gonna always go back to my gun. And I might be in a situation where the last thing I need is a gun because now I'm reconnaissance. When you send me out to get somebody, if you give me a gun, I'm gonna shoot you. I mean, yeah. So what? So if you send me from infantry where I'm shooting people to reconnaissance, it's like, look, we just need you to go out and we need you to pick up information and bring us back information. Don't do anything. Just go and look and come back. Well, you got to teach me how to operate without a gun because yeah. Because my train of thought when I meet, if I meet
I'm trained to shoot to kill.
Yeah, so when I get into a new relationship, if I'm not debriefed, I'm bringing that stuff in with me. It's just I don't care what we say. I'm bringing.
That's why I was talking about spillage. You know.
Yeah.
And because I am a person that loves people.
Yeah.
If at any moment I feel that I bought something from my past that could hurt you intentionally or non-intentionally,
well, how do you? What do you do?
Away. And that's why I said, it's possible to happen. You bring a spillage from other relationships, and that's
so you say you back away. You tend to back away.
I think if you realize that, you need to back away.
Wow.
You need to back away.
Wow.
And go back to basic training so that, like Gina said, that we can be stripped. And don't hate yourself if you've come to a point and you got to go back.
That's good.
This is new to me, and I'm being vulnerable.
That's good. Oh, that's
because
good.
This is new to me.
That's good. That's
I've
good.
Never dated.
Wow.
Because things just always happen.
Mm-hmm.
I've never dated. So this is
good.
new for me.
That's good, Frank.
So when I realized, whenever you were talking about being vulnerable, men being vulnerable, and asking that hard question, okay, what if you ask a hard question? You're open, you're honest, and I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
And you tell me I appreciate.
Right.
You being honest with me, but later on, now I get to really know how you felt about me being honest with you.
Right. No, that's
so,
that's
you got the cliche. You do if you don't, and you don't if you do. So
and Freddie, the one thing you watch when you get to the point where you're talking that type of conversation with somebody, make sure they're saying stuff back to you. Because people can gloss you and not really say anything back. You can say, God, Freddie, you know what? I hate that you went through that. Man, and I'm gonna support you. It's like, wait, I don't need to hear that. You ain't told me nothing about you. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes people are not revealing themselves. They and you think, man, this person is really about me. It ain't about being about you. They got to reveal who they are. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what I've been taking for the tools that I'm learning here.
Right. Yeah.
I'm picking them up.
Yeah.
I'm learning, but it seemed to, I feel like it backfired.
Yeah.
But I learned. God just showed me who that person was.
He showed you who it was.
That's why I asked you the question, who is God to you? Because when you're looking at God, every person that he introduced himself, he always gave who he was or who he is.
Right.
He never held anything back.
Right.
That's why I'm saying that between you and I, you will know when a man is out of sync with you. He's holding something back. Because you gotta be like, a woman as well. Like, okay, you didn't put no makeup on today, but you got your makeup in your bag. Okay, let me see what's going on here. Oh, I'm gonna be staying. I'm going to work, but I'm gonna be late tonight. Okay, you usually don't put no makeup on. You go to work, so why you got your makeup in your bag?
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
So now when we're looking at the person who she is and how she presents herself to me, I'm already going to automatically know this is bone in my bone, flesh in my flesh, and who I want. But as soon as I see something that's outside of that or outside of what we are, what agreements that we have, it's always going to go. It's going to always have an effect of we out of sync right now. I don't know that I'm not out of sync, but I'm feeling that we're out of sync. Why we're out of sync right now?
Right.
So that's the same way when I'm looking at God. God is saying, when I come to you, I'm never going to be out of sync. I'm always going to come to you straightforward to who I am. If I'm upset with you, I'm going to come to you, let you know I'm upset with you. If I'm pleased with you, I'm coming to you and, hey, I'm pleased with you. And other than that, when everything comes to the point where you find something that's out of sync, they don't want to tell you anything. Now you got to realize, is it me or is it them? Then when you start start weighing out the differences between you and that person, maybe it did happen because you said something weeks ago where it made that person say, you know what, I don't think this relationship is going to work anymore. So you got to look at that point as well. But when the person comes to you, if they don't come to you as a god or as a goddess, you got to ask questions. You got to do it. And so those are the things that we've seen as far as we call playing games. Because now we're looking at the enemy or what we call Satan as the deceiver of all deception, right? So if I'm coming to you to deceive you, then you have to go to that point to be deceived to you to realize that you have been deceived. That's like Eve was saying, like, you know what? I thought everything was good, but now that I realize Satan deceived me. So now that he deceived me, I'm learning from him now. So now I'm not gonna allow him to deceive me the way he deceived me before. So that's how we gotta look at things. I'm sorry.
It is.
Yeah.
I did have something.
I know that was a good game. Because the time slipped on this.
Yeah.
Good gracious.
One of the viewers said, how have you stood alongside a man to aid him in helplessness?
Wow.
How
Wait a
have
minute,
you stood alongside a man to aid him in helplessness?
Because I think what happens in that is if women are nurturers, by and large,
Oh,
by and large, you're nurturers. And this is it because I see it. I see that I've seen mothers treat sons and daughters differently. I've seen mothers treat daughters like, girl, get up here and get this room clean and stuff. And then you say, why my brother sitting right here doing nothing? Don't worry about him. I need you to do it. Like, wait a minute. So what you learn how to do, what some women learn how to do, they become such nurturers is that the man can really revert back into, I mean, I hate to say it, you're almost like their mothers. You're almost like, you go to, you start paying the bills, you're making up the bed, you're doing, and you're okay because it just feels natural. Right. Until like when you say it earlier, until you wake up one morning like, wait a minute, why am I doing all of this? But it's joking. I love you. And hold it. But let me tell you, this is good. As long as he's not taking advantage of that, that's fine. It's okay for the nurture. But when he just sits back, like he comes home, both y'all get home at 5 o'clock, and he sits there on the couch and kick his feet up, and you start taking out dishes, pots and pans. It's like, wait a minute, this is not right. This is something that, but you might not even feel like you're being mistreated because you're a nurturer. Like, okay, this is just what I want to do, but it's like you're disabling because if something ever happens and you ask him, like, look, you got home before, can you start dinner? It's like, what do I do? Like, right. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how. So, if you're an enabler, sometimes you just got to be careful that you're not enabling. That's a great question because women, y'all have been taught, and y'all, if you ever raised a child, that gear in you to take care of can just kick in before you even know it.
And you know what I've been told? Because that is my nature. I just automatically thought,
you do, Freddie. You do, yeah, you good. Yeah.
I have been told, everybody don't want your help.
Wow. I do. I tell you in 2 minutes.
I need to know who wants my help and who doesn't want my help. But it's my nature. I love
you do.
people.
That you do, Freddie. You do. Oh my God. Yeah.
I'm your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
But I've been told everybody does not want your help. So you have to stand back. And if they ask for your help, then you help.
Yeah.
So I have to pick and choose who I'm really helping because everybody don't want it.
See, I have a problem with that. Like when it comes to having surgery and getting well, I have a hard time with getting well because I'm so used to getting up doing stuff all the time. I'm not used to sitting down. So when people tell me sit down, I'm looking at them like, what?
Yeah.
What does that look like? Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And you know who the best men are? Men who raise daughters. Men who raise daughters, they're a different breed because they learn to cater to their baby. They like, that's my heart. That's my, and when men are vulnerable with their daughters, and like when I see Abe's daughter, man, the reason Abe is a good candidate for a husband is because he knows how to love on his daughter. Right. So you have to, because men have to be vulnerable with your daughter. Like, sweetie, I love you. Sweetie, you're adorable. Sweetie, you just, so because if men never get used to saying that and have to turn that on, it's just like, the people like, oh, you look all right. Like, It's like, you know.
Not doing
Right. And so if you, because every man don't have daughters, but brothers, I'm telling you, women, that's a good thing to look at. If you see men who have good relationship with their daughters, they about 30% ahead of the game because they have learned how to nurture. They have learned how to nurture their daughter, and sometimes that transfers over a little bit easier. And women, and this is it, and women who raise strong sons, sometimes that's good to, for men, sometimes it's good because they're like, if they see you sit down, they're like, get up, what you doing? You can't sit there. And sometimes men need the fire. Believe it or not, they're like, what you doing sitting down? You know what I'm saying? And if a man who's not insecure, he can take that. You know what I'm saying? Because normally, like, Freddie is a good helper. Freddie is wonderful because, yeah, when it's stuff at church, yeah, so.
I call it take a bear.
Yeah.
Take a bear.
Right. Because Freddie can see me trying to do 30 different things, and she'll say, what can I help you do? Something. Because you trying to do the sound, you trying to preach, you trying to do chords. So what happened was, then I found out, like, Russ, you're not trying to have to do as much. Why are you not trying to do as much? Holy, she didn't even tell me she was helping me. But I just found out, like, Russ, you get out earlier because you're not having to do stuff. And I think, to me, that's what covenant looks like. And sometimes you don't have to tell the person you're helping them. You just do it. Like when you get up in the morning and your car's already warm because your husband did that. Right.
We'll be together.
That's that question before we leave. Rebecca Ward's asked another question.
What's that? Yeah, go ahead.
How could you have managed the help me, right?
Uh-huh.
So what the man could get back to the place of Eden in his mind.
Oh, that's good.
How could you
Getting back to Eden.
To help me. And so what the man can get back.
Yeah, get back to Eden so you can really accept her as a help meet, where it's not, you're not seeing her as a subordinate, but wow, that's good.
For me, if you look
that's good.
Read the scriptures again, Rebecca, in
wow,
I believe the 3rd chapter of Genesis. Remember what God said to them after they got out of Eden. They both knew the knowledge of good and evil. So I think it's up to you to get the wisdom on your side to be able to help the man to get to where he is as well. So you still have wisdom and you still have wisdom and instructions as well by the Creator for you to do what you need to do on your side. So that would be my answer.
Yeah, and I think, of course we do say communication, but people have different levels of communication. And right. So, when people say you need to communicate, that's dicey because everybody doesn't communicate the same. So, but if you're trying to get back to an Eden experience, start with one thing. What's the one thing, if y'all are like, look, we don't want this marriage, well, we don't want this relationship, we're dating, and there's so many good features about this that I like. So I think what you do is you try to focus in. Let's focus on one thing that we both know that each other likes. And let's on the daily basis just try to do that. If that person likes, look, it could be something simple like, look, I like ice water when I get home. So you know what? I'm going to make sure every day you get home, you're going to have a glass of ice water. That's the commitment. And the woman says, look, the one thing I need is that I need to hear an affirmation. I need to hear from you that I mean something to you. So, and then, right, then the man says, so when you give me the ice water, I'm gonna make sure that I'm saying, you know what, I really appreciate you because, you know what I'm saying? What it is, it's like what you said about hope. You can't turn, when you turn a ship, those big cargo ships that move tankers, when you turn a rudder on a ship that big, do you know it doesn't start turning until about probably gets another mile out? Because the rudder can't turn it. The rudder is not big enough to turn it instantly. It might take that ship 30 minutes to go in the other direction, but it's turning. So the rudder is doing its job. And the people don't panic. The people don't say like the ship is not turning. They're like, all right, it's 9:09. So let them know by 10 o'clock we'll be heading in the other direction. They know that the rudder is working. So what you do is, look, the glass of water is like, hey, you know what? I appreciate this glass of water. I just want you to know, you really touched my heart when you gave me that, because it lets me know that you really think about me and that really means something. Those interchanges, what's it's going to start to do? Because then it becomes more than that. Then the next, you're going through the night, like, you know what, man, those shoes really look nice on you today. And then she said, hey, would you look? Yeah. So then what happens is that the term becomes bigger. And after a while, you don't even know where it started. It started with the glass of water and the compliment, but then everything starts to turn. Yeah, right. You can't don't try to turn the whole thing. You gotta have it's too much. Yeah, it's too frustrating.
It brings me to the point. I'm just gonna say this real quick. Off that movie 30 Day Promise, when the day when she found out she had cancer, and she had her husband to carry her for 30 days. At first, it started out as he was tired. Then, he was noticing that she was losing weight. So what was happening was he, right. So the assignment he had started becoming lighter.
Right.
And then you start expecting to do it every day. So that's like you said, it starts out with
small. Yeah, glass of water. Yeah, what's the one thing? So I would tell her, find the one thing. Find the ones, don't make it big. Listen, we still got issues. We know we're dealing with the issues, but we're gonna find one good thing we can do for each other every day. And then we'll go from there. We'll go to the next step and the next step. Yeah. So y'all, this was good because time never slipped away from us like this. It's like now this. Woo. Okay, I'm gonna let my co-host say good night, man. Wow. So what?
Of course.
I like that overzealous. Come on, Cat. Bring it in, bro. Bring it in. Thank y'all. This was wonderful, y'all. This is a good session. Good session. So yeah, and it's marriage.com. That's where the questions. That's where this edition. So yeah, they have some good things that they talk about on there. So we'll bring some more in there. I think it'll lead to some good discussion. So I'm gonna let my co-host say their final good nights for the night.
Well, this is the strong becoming stronger.
I love it.
I'm so serious. I'm being vulnerable tonight, you guys. This was so good, and that's what people need, transparency. I'm so okay with transparency because I know it's part of my healing. I know it's part of my growing.
Yeah.
And it makes me a better person.
That's good.
Or I know that somebody else's life is in the balance off of me, and I need to make sure that this balancer is working. It's working effectively.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I'm not right, if I'm tilted off, I'm no good to the person that's attached to me. So I press towards the mark of the high call of being better, of doing better, knowing better. And so I'm going out on that note. Gina.
I don't need to say anything. I don't know what I can say after that. It's good night.
I'll just say before you hit the hospice stage.
Watch out. Come on.
Treat it.
Treat it.
Treat it. It's not hard. Let your heavyweight become that lightweight. Treat it. Let's continue to heal, build, and go together.
Y'all getting it in, man. Y'all getting it in.
Have dominion with each other, have dominion together, not over each other. That's all I'm saying.
That's it, y'all. This was great. I thank God for my co-host. Thanks, Freddie's son is here tonight. We're going to bring him in. Hallelujah. Thank you, brother, for coming in tonight. And I just want to release you with the priestly blessing on tonight as we're leaving. And that comes from Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Like Abram said earlier, we are the seed of Abraham through the blood of Jesus. We're Abraham's seed. So God gave this blessing to Moses to give to Aaron to bless the children of Israel. So as I release this blessing, I ask you to turn the palm towards the sky. If not, if you're so quick you can't do that, that's fine. The blessing still works. And this is Numbers 6:22 coming from the Amplified Bible, and it starts, and the Lord spoke to Moses saying, verse 23, speak to Aaron and his sons saying, this is the way you should bless the Israelites. Say to them, verse 24, the Lord bless you and keep you, protect you, sustain you, and guard you. Verse 25, the Lord make his face shine upon you with favor and be gracious to you, surrounding you with loving kindness. Verse 26, the Lord lift up his countenance, his face upon you with divine approval and give you peace, a tranquil heart and life. And verse 27, so Aaron and his sons shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Y'all have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next Monday on relationship maintenance.
That is vulnerability.
Yeah.